you guys don't do that at work? You just roll right into it.
Yeah.
Well, here we test audio.
Are you recording? Are we live?
Good evening and welcome to the March 12th, 2026 BARS meeting. My name is Bill Perner and I'm not the usual chair. I'm usually over on one of these seats over here. I'm sitting in for our chairwoman tonight, Ms. Slambrook, who could not be here tonight. So if you'll just kind of bear with me a little bit while I stumble through some of this stuff. My fellow board members to my left are Becky Finno and Daryl Cobb. And city staff present, we have Travis Golly, he's our senior preservation planner, and Brad Thomas, he's our staff architectural planner. The order of tonight's meeting will be as follows. First of all, we'll start out with staff will provide an introduction and overview of each of the applications for both the board's and the public's benefit. Following that, we will hear a presentation from the applicant. And then the applicant and his or her team will be allotted 10 minutes in which to present the project. By ordinance, the board, we can ask questions of the applicant anytime during the meeting, but customarily, we wait until the end of his presentation. After this, we will be followed by public comment period. We have received all the written comments that have been submitted prior to the meeting. So generally, these comments are not read through the meeting since we've already seen them. They're already in record. If you're speaking as a member of the public, please do so at the podium. State your first and last name for the record. And if you're a neighbor, please state your address as well. Public comments will then follow. Will be followed by the city staff's comments from Travis and a recommendation. Once we've heard from staff and the public, the applicant will have a 5-minute rebuttal period. And then after hearing any response back from the applicant, we will then go into board discussion. And then after board discussion, we will continue with a vote. All of our meetings are posted online. The meeting results rather are posted online. We're also on YouTube if you want to go back and look at us. We've got a few deferrals tonight. Item A1, review of February 26 meeting minutes. We are deferring those. And then three of our items, B1 20 Alberta Avenue, B2 76 Smith Street, and B14 12 Franklin Street. These have all been deferred and will not be heard. So if you're here for those, you can leave. Ashton, 22 Ashton, sorry. And then, very important, as a reminder, we're an architectural review board. We're not a zoning board. So please limit your comments to architecture only. We don't have any purview over things such as zoning issues, lot sizes, density, number of dwelling units, land use, drainage, any of those things, or livability issues. So we'll go ahead and get started. Our first project is item B2 76 Smith Street. Travis, can you give us your introduction?
That was deferred.
Oh, I'm sorry. Like I said, I don't usually do this. We will jump into 30 Society Street.
30 Society Street is the Anson Borough Council District 8. Is not rated circa 1840 in the Old Historic District. They are requesting approval for the demolition of an accessory structure, infill porch, and entry porch. This is the aerial of the property. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
My name is Sean Carlin of Carlin Architecture Studio. I'm the architect for this project. So the sandboards on this project show that 30 Society Street, as it is today, was originally a storehouse for the property 297 Bay Street. So it actually fronted East Bay, and this was a secondary subservient structure, typically attached by some sort of porch structure to the main house. Now, today it is its own independent structure that fronts Society Street. And as you go through all the different Sanborns, there's iterations of how it changed. In 1955 revision of the Sanborn map is where it becomes a property that faces Society Street. And there was a filling station that was put at the corner where East West Partners now resides. There was no accessory structure for this specific structure and lot of 30 Society Street on any of the Sanborn maps. Here's some of the existing photos showing the reference of the property that we looked at this morning, as well as the accessory structure. Here's some historic contextual photos. The two on the right are from 1960, which show no accessory structure, and the porch as it is today is differs from what shows in that 1960 photo. And then there's the 2004 listing photo that shows that accessory structure there, and then the porch and awning at the entry as it actually exists today. So the site plan here is showing the extent of what we're asking to remove. There's a concrete wall shed at the back corner that was a modern intervention. The accessory structure, which was built in 1995, along with the wood deck that connects the existing building with the accessory structure right now. And then the two main pieces that actually affect the structure of the house that's on the lot is the infill porch area. That, as best I can tell from the Sanborn maps, was always an open porch piece that extended the length of that area. And it was the connection between the main house and the storehouse here. And then what is now the front porch that does not create any entry availability from the street. It turns kind of a blank wall to the street, and was not historically part of the structure. The historic use of the storehouse was always entry point through that back mass, not that front mass. And then you just have the elevations showing.
This is the demo.
Showing what's being ripped. I couldn't remember if I had front elevation. And that's all.
Okay, any questions from the board members?
No.
Okay, any public comment? Would anyone like to speak? Okay, all right, Travis, would you want to give us your staff comments and recommendations?
All right, staff observation is we do not object to this demolition. Our conditions for approval would be to salvage any historic material. And our recommendation is approval of demolition with board and staff conditions.
Okay. Would you like to address any of that?
No.
All right, well, that concludes the applicant presentation and public comment period, and we will now go into board discussion.
I'd like to just thank the applicant for having us visit the site today. I think that's always extremely helpful to see it on site. I don't know. That question.
Same, no problem.
Okay,
I would
it
agree
looks
with that.
like most of these are more modern additions that are being removed, and also sort of correcting some of the ills from the past. So I don't have any objections either. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion for approval as submitted.
Okay, Daryl is for approval, and can I have a second?
Second.
Becky, second. Daryl?
You in favor?
Becky?
Yeah.
Chair votes with the majority, and the motion passes. Right, we will move on to our next one, which is the same address, 35th Street. Travis, would you like to give us?
So for the Society Street, Hanson Borough Council District 8, operated circuit 1840 in the Old Historic District. And this request is for approval for the demolition. Not as the same. But this is for the additions and alterations. and I will hand it back to you.
So now that we've already introduced the site to you guys, I don't have to go through all of that again. And there's some neighborhood context photos. Again, the historic photos. So this is the site plan showing, you know, how we plan to go back with some additional space on the site and the interventions that then are part of that existing structure. There's that grand live oak kind of in the heart of the garden area at the rear. So that was something we kind of had to work around, and as well as the 9-foot setback now off of that property line. And from the site plan, it kind of clearly illustrates the idea that we've kept off of historic corners. We've used hyphens to kind of separate what was the existing historic structure and the new massing. And we've kind of avoided that tree and kind of kept that area pretty wide open. So you can see there's kind of that first mass is a dining area. You have another hyphen and then kind of the kitchen house at the rear. That first new additional mass is a 2-story structure. In the elevations, you'll see that it is subservient to the existing storehouse in height. And also, it does not go past the furthest point of that existing storehouse structure. So the new front elevation, we're proposing a more contextual entry porch that fits in with the rest of the neighborhood and also kind of delineates your pedestrian circulation into the site from the vehicular circulation into the site. It creates an actual walkway for somebody to enter the site without having to walk through the driveway. And also adding back the shutters that were once on that facade, as evidenced by the hardware that's still kind of hanging off on the front. This is your view of the garden. It shows that second mass is subservient in height to the storehouse, and then that rear kitchen house mass is a 1-story mass that again kind of steps the scale down as you go further back. It also illustrates the front entry porch that we've proposed, as well as the 2-story porch along that area where historically there were porches that connected the original residence to this storehouse. So here's your perspective views. The one thing with the kitchen house is that, you know, the plan is that'll be a darker structure, that with the landscaping and how we create the garden, the hope is that kind of washes away a little bit into that and it mitigates its impact on the site. The detailing of that first 2-story mass that's being proposed to be added is keeping it in a more simplistic manner so that we're not trying to outshine the existing historic storehouse. There's really not any ornate detailing on that house. So it's a challenge of not trying to overshine that, but also kind of being able to add detail and context to be within the fabric of the neighborhood. And this is the perspective of the proposed entry porch, new entry sequence onto the site.
Any questions for the applicant?
I have one. So when you say it's subordinate, are you talking about this mass or what's subordinate?
The highest point of the new addition piece, which is that 2-story, that parapet wall is below the parapet wall of the existing storehouse structure.
You think?
Doesn't appear to be.
Yeah, it doesn't.
You go back to the elevation. It's hard to tell with no dimensions
Yeah,
on the
but-
drawing.
It's close, but it is.
All right.
What are your ceiling heights in that portion?
We have matched the existing storehouse. The floor and ceiling heights are matching, exactly what was existing, and they're not large. I think it was 8.5 on the first floor and like 7 on the second floor. We kind of had to match it in order to be able to keep that mass below. And that was part of the challenge of, this was a secondary structure when it was originally built, but now it's kind of the main piece of the site. So we're trying to work with that and keeping this subservient.
And you're not in a flood zone?
We are in a flood zone.
You're.
That's that vertical line there. To the left of it is
Oh.
an AE, I forget whether
Yeah, or what?
M, yeah, and then an X to the right.
So all of that, 8 to 10.
That's right. What's that?
So this floor to floor says. And it's just under 10. I don't understand.
So your first floor height for your addition is at, I can't read the text, 12 feet, I guess?
Well, that's the.
It's, yeah, the floor height and the floor level of the second floor, they all match the existing floor levels of that storehouse.
Anything else? Okay. Do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak?
Laurel Fay with the Preservation Society of Charleston. The PSC appreciates the applicant meeting with us to discuss this project and for taking our feedback into consideration. This is a very unique building and site, and we appreciate the applicant's study to understand its evolution. We are excited to see the piazza form restored based on historic evidence. As proposed, the PSC encourages reducing the massing of the rearmost portion of the addition. Stepping back from the plane of the historic footprint would lessen the visual impact on the historic building and lend to more appropriate subordination. Thank you.
Can I just ask a clarification?
Yeah.
You mean the back kitchen house area?
Yeah, the
Okay.
rearmost, yeah.
Anyone else? Travis? Give us your staff comments and recommendations.
All right, staff observations. Proposal reestablishes and expands the historic porch. Historic photos show windows as 3/1. This should be retained. The proposed addition is subordinate in height, scale, mass, and general architectural direction is appropriate. The cementitious materials are not appropriate on a historic building. We have part of our principles here saying for the historic portion should use authentic materials. Our conditions for approval: shutter style should be restudied to a more appropriate style, used consistently across the structure. Retain the 3/1 windows on historic portion of the building. On the first volume, the existing 3/1 windows can be reused in the new opening adjacent. A window schedule of windows should be, window schedule of windows to replace should be provided, showing documentation that windows are beyond repair. A window schedule should be provided. Staff recommendation is conceptual approval of format staff conditions and preliminary and final review by staff permit documents.
Do you have any clarifications or questions?
Not on comments like that.
We will now go into board discussion and a vote. I'm usually the one that starts out, so I'm gonna let you guys start out now.
I can start. I mean, I might just move from right to left.
Go ahead.
I have trouble with adding the piazza screen to a building that really never has. So I understand the need for an appropriate entry off of Society Street. Just have this, there doesn't seem, there's no historic precedent for adding that. So it's, I think it's always been a fairly simple entry with just that patio and those doors and the overhang. I don't have a problem with adding the porch. And then past the existing building, I have some trouble with a combination of the massing, maybe it's the diagram of the plan, the hyphen, and then the first structure, and then another hyphen, and then the kitchen building. And the kitchen building, the last building being much wider than the others. And so I think I have some trouble with the plan diagram. And then the elevation, there's just so many different vocabularies that, and this site is fully visible. So just the vocabulary and that I'm not sure how subservient looks like, maybe a couple inches. It's subservient or subordinate to the front building. Typically, we would ask for more than that. So it's sort of to see that stepping down, and then maybe a little bit more unity in the vocabulary. Just seems like there are just so many different building types going on. That's my.
Yeah. And my take might be a little different than Becky's. I do like the side porch. I question that entry door. I mean, I understand why it's there, but would that be, do you see that on anything other than Charleston singles? That would be my question, maybe to you who worked on more of these buildings than I have.
Are you talking about the new, up the one up by the street?
Yes.
That's not common. You say?
What?
I wouldn't say it's common.
So it's at first glance, I would expect it to see on a Charleston single, and it throws me off. So I understand the need for that side entry, but that door is throwing me off. I don't have the issues Becky has with the first hyphen. I like that it's a glass connection.
Yeah, I like that piece. I actually like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that first one.
And in respect to the massing, I don't think I personally like the pieces, so I'm struggling with it as much as you are.
Regarding the piazza that's being added up front to the up near the street, I understand Becky's concern. You know, my concern is that it does look like, especially in material and detailing, it looks like this piazza screen walls could be mistaken as being original to the building. And I'm just wondering if some sort of other porch solution would be better, just to, or even if the piazza screens took on a different material. And right now they're sort of mimicking both the material and the parapet detail of the main body of the building. And I think that's a little kind of confusing to the eye as far as telling what's old, what's new. I think the hyphen you're talking about works well between the old and the new. I do see where Becky's coming from in that I think I don't mind that there's the buildings progressively become a little different going down the road, but I think maybe there could be some more simplification, a little bit more unification. The very back kitchen house just seems like it is so very, very different from the rest of it. I don't think it needs to change a lot. Maybe it's a change of materials or a few details or something, but just, I think there needs to be a little bit more relationship in there. But overall, I think it's a good project. It just needs some tweaking as far as I'm.
If the massing of the addition was one more mass, it would probably outweigh the massing of the existing building, meaning it might be more heavy. So again, that's why I don't struggle with the breaking up of the massing.
The first new addition right after the hyphen. I see where Becky's coming from and that the heights are very similar, but because of the existing floor heights that he's working with, I don't see where it could come down even any more, really. I don't know. Is there a parapet? How tall is your parapet above your roof line?
I'd have to look back, but it was maybe 8 inches or nothing massive.
Okay.
I figured that's why you asked ceiling height questions, because that would dictate whether that could come down anymore.
Yeah.
The reason I struggle with the plan is, typically in Charleston, you see that too.
Yeah,
I mean, you see the bigger mass and then there's kind of this tapering back as there's a tapering down. So it's just a little, that back piece is actually the one that's really throwing me, I think in vocabulary and footprint.
with me, it's more in vocabulary. It's just very, very different from the rest.
Yeah.
The footprint, really isn't that much of an issue with me. I don't think you're gonna really perceive it from like street level. Do we have any type of consensus?
I don't know, I would move for deferral. You guys might not.
Yeah. If it were a deferral, it would be to what, restudy the massing of the rear
And the
mass
entry, and I think the entry piece,
and the entry piece?
particular those two.
And you're not comfortable with conceptual approval in him showing us that at preliminary?
I think it depends on how much you want the rearmost component to change. If it was,
Well, we all want the front component changed.
I think the front does need to change because I think it's reading like it was always
It's a
there.
historical mass. That was
Yeah,
already,
yeah.
but if he has, could we craft a motion for conceptual, because you didn't have too many issues with the rear mass. You were thinking that maybe
I
it
think stylistically
could work on it. If the architect could restudy the front entrance and the massing of material on the rear mass, we review that at preliminary. Does that work for you or no?
and have it come back to the board.
Come back to the board for
Okay.
preliminary.
Yeah.
That, would that,
I'm still on. I don't know if you can second them.
Travis, I can second the motion as chair. I believe so. Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
I'll make a motion.
Or
Conceptual approval with staff comments and the architect to restudy the entrance feature and the massing and material of the kitchen mass.
got a motion on the table from Daryl for a conceptual approval. Adopting staff comments and to restudy the entrance element, i.e. the one up by the street.
Yes.
And that would include, for understanding, that would include the porches. And then restudy of the massing and material of the kitchen mass.
Correct.
Correct. You got that, Travis? Okay. I'll second the motion. And take a vote. Daryl,
Yay in favor.
Becky,
No thanks.
okay, and I will. Chairman votes yay in favor, so 2-1. Which carries 2-1.
I make a quick note that you need streetscape and some dimensions. The next time you come back, please. Conceptual.
Sir?
I said this was only for conceptual approval.
Yeah.
I know there's a second.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
$37 Smith Street, so Harlem Village, Council District 8, Category 3 building, circa 1850 in the Old Historic District. Requesting conceptual approval for exterior alterations, outbuilding and pergola. This is an aerial of the property. And I will hand it over to the applicant.
Good evening, I'm Ashley Jennings. I'm the architect on the project representing Aaron Eilers, who owns the building. And tonight we're going to look at 7 areas of intervention on this rather large single-family residence that's on Smith Street. It's it needs some work. And she's been systematically trying to work through whatever needs to be done to the building. But as you can see, it's a pretty substantial property. And so I'm gonna just scroll through some of these photographs so you can see. I don't know a lot about the history of the building immediately prior to her owning the building, but it appears to me that it was carved up into apartments, even if it wasn't legal. And so you see in the back this metal stair, you see some other things that have happened over time to kind of accommodate that work, just trying to return it to a single family residence. So this is the back of the house, especially, is where we're really going to focus our attention. And it's really about this outbuilding in the back that most of the work is going to happen to. Some Sanborn maps just to show the evolution really of the outbuilding, because that's where a majority of the work is going to happen. But as you can see, between the 1902 and 1955 Sanborn maps, that building has changed. And most recently, between the 1944 and 1955 Sanborn maps, you can see there's a little shed addition that's added to the front of the structure, or the south side of the structure facing the drive. Like I said, 8 areas of intervention. Number 1, we're going to add a gate at the driveway. Number 2, we're proposing to surface the steps. Number 3, we're going to add a wall and a gate here at the back of the drive. Number 4, we're going to remove the metal stair and create a new stair and landing here. Number 5, modifications to this existing outbuilding. Number 6, add a proposed pergola. Number 7, a brick wall back here. And number 8 is a proposal to change out the windows in the dormers. So you can see here the floor plans, but I think really we have to kind of go further into the drawing package to kind of just first of all, I want to tell y'all, because you're going to ask me if there's a drafting error. And yes, there is. This is the original turn column. It's intended to stay. I made it green so that we remember to put it back over here, and we didn't. So we have no intention of changing that. But as you can see in this overall elevation, this is the proposed gate here. There is a existing pier here, and the idea is to install a wrought iron gate. This pier seems to be on the property of the adjacent neighbor, so there's a steel post that goes here, but it's intended to kind of bridge the gap between those 2 piers. The design of the gate is reminiscent of the original gate that's installed here. And then as you move around the building, you can see in our demolition plan, these are the areas that are proposed for demolition, and this is what is proposing to go back. We'll go into that a little bit further. And once again, from the rear of the property, you can see how, other than this back little area, this is where we're proposing the changes. One thing to clarify on the brick last wall when we get to it is that this wall is completely covered with vines right now. We assumed it was in bad shape. We found that it's not, so we're not going to replace that wall. Okay, so this is a better view to see everything that's proposed. Once again, remove these stairs, install a small landing here. And the reason for this, instead of going back to the face of the original porch, is because there's a door that kind of straddles that beneath that beam that's existing that needs to be accommodated. And I'll get a little bit further into the outbuilding in just a moment, but we're also proposing this pergola here. So let's talk about the outbuilding. I'm going to go back and show you some photographs of the outbuilding so you can see. It's been used most recently as a garage. As you can see, this is that element that we're proposing to remove. There's obviously some siding that's over a portion of the building, but the original structure, I don't know if we have a good picture of that or not. Oh, here you see it. The original structure was board and batten. This is all older siding. This is not as old. And so the proposal is to remove the lap siding and go back to board and batten. So one of the issues with this site, as you can see, the dash line, the design flood elevation is significantly high on the site. And in order to use the building the way that our clients want to use it, we have to raise the floor. And so the intent is to abandon right now it's set up as if there's a garage and a room over the garage. And the intent is to take that floor out, as you can see, and make it a one volume structure. And so we have to add some stairs. Does that make sense? So it's just a bigger volume inside. And that changes the fenestration on this space. So these are existing windows and the intent is to align 2 more windows below. Here's your stairs, it goes up. And then as we move around the building, the side that has the stair on it that's kind of sandwiched between the back of the original structure and the outbuilding, that stair will be removed, this door will be removed, this element here will be removed. And there's a little roof element that covers the stair between the buildings that will also be removed. Cleaning everything up, adding a triple door here that looks out over that pergola, an outdoor shower here, and maintain the existing windows. And next is the pergola. So once again, here's the outbuilding. That's that triple door looking into the pergola. And the intent of the pergola is just to create a covered space by the pool. We're proposing a heavy timber frame with a standing seam metal roof, and the base of each of the windows. Each of the piers is to be a CMU pier with stucco with a brick cap. So you've got a heavy timber frame sitting on a base there. And these are some images of that. The intent there is to create a lattice brick wall on the back wall, but this is that wall I mentioned previously that wall doesn't need to go away. We're not proposing to replace it. Pool and landscaping by others. So I'm going to go back a little bit just to talk about the last few interventions. The dormers, as you can see, there's 6/6 windows. We're proposing 2/2. 6/6 windows look like they're Victor built windows. They definitely aren't original windows. So the intent was to replace them with something that makes sense with the logic of the front structure. And then last but not least, this brick wall with a gate that separates the drive from the pool area. And that's it. I know I went through a lot. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions?
I have a question about a couple. So the window replacement on the main building, it points to one dormer saying replace existing windows, but then what's the window? What's the extent? What's the scope of work?
3 dormers.
So just the dormers.
Just the dormers. Just the dormers.
And then on the outbuilding, obviously now it's going to have 2 floors. I see the diagrammatic section. This shows one big space.
It's only going to have 1 floor.
It's what?
It's only going to have 1 floor. It'll just be a larger volume space.
Okay.
So the floor is the intermediate floor that creates the room over the garage. Will go away and the floor will step up to meet flood zone. And so it'll just be a larger volume. I mean, I think the best example I can think of is the Oyster House that's behind Leon's where they took the floor out in the middle.
Yeah.
So it'll just be a really tall space.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I have one question.
Okay.
On the outbuilt, the furthest building out, does the existing board and batt go all the way down to the ground? Because you have one picture where it appears to be in the gable and
It does go all the way to the ground on the side. We believe it does on the side, on this side. So It looks like it goes all, you've got a stairwell here, but it looks like it goes all the way to the ground. We've introduced a batten here only because if it has to be repaired here, then we carry it all the way around. There's an opportunity to flash.
And are those two upper windows remaining? So
Yes. Every existing window is intended to remain and be restored.
And you're kind of certain that is the same building that appears on the 1902 Sanborn?
It looks like it is. I mean, that board and batten's old.
Yeah, so.
So yeah, I assume it is the same structure. I think it's just been, if you look back through those different Sanborn maps, it had several additions on the west side, and then it had the addition on the south side.
So it's been pretty heavily modified over the years in different ways. Okay. All right, anything else? Anybody from the public that'd like to speak?
Laurel Fay with the Preservation Society of Charleston. The PSC appreciates the applicant meeting with us to discuss this request, and we're pleased to offer our support for this project, which will restore the historic core of this property and adaptively reuse the existing outbuilding structure. Thank you.
Anyone else? Travis, would you like to give us your staff comments right minute?
First comment is outlining what this request is. The proposed pergola is in line with existing house and minimally visible. The gate is appropriate and matches the existing pedestrian gate. The applicant has already addressed the green column. We also appreciate the removal of the garage bump out and the piazza fire stair. Our only condition was to restudy siding on rearmost addition. The applicant has addressed that in her presentation. Our recommendations, conceptual approval of board and staff conditions and preliminary final review by staff under documents.
Okay, thank you, Travis. Ashley, would you like to, any rebuttal, clarification or anything? That concludes the public and staff, public and staff comments. We'll move into board discussion now. I'd like to start.
I'll start. I only had two concerns and they may have addressed one. The board and bat, I just thought it just may be the drafting, because when you look at the image of the side, it seems to work. So in my opinion, then if the new board bat matched the existing, it would probably work. And the pergola seems, I guess it's 11'8" tall, and like it needs a beam or it needs to increase the pitch. It needs to get grounded or lowered a little bit. Is there a reason it's that high or?
The intent was to have visual connection from the outbuilding into the pergola. And so we set the bottom of the eave high enough that those doors could gain visual access into the pergola. It is tall and thin, but that was the intent, was to try to connect the two.
In my opinion, it just looked, and another way to look at that is maybe even just to lower the beam underneath that goes from column to column. Maybe that would help pull it down some, but it looks spindly. I guess that's my word for the day.
Spindly. Okay.
I'll let Becky see if
I
any of that.
agree with Daryl's comments on the pergola. I'm actually, it's always really nice when we see, really wonderful when we see a project like this where you're really trying to bring back and be a good steward to a house that clearly needs some TLC. I had questions on the board and batten that it just seems it's unusual. That's not to say that it's not the more original material. I think I think the detailing on it, I think when you look at the back elevation, there's a cross piece on the detailing followed the existing. I think would be important. Yeah, I don't know, the pergola just seems really high. I mean, I could sit a little bit more with the land.
If, in my opinion, if she wants it that high, maybe we would lower the beam and thicken the columns or something to ground it a little bit.
More of a proportional issue.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I don't think I've got anything to add. I think most everything is restorative and it's wonderful to see, the metal stairs come off. All of the wonderful things that are being corrected because it's a beautiful house. I walk by it often. Well, would somebody like to make a motion?
You want me to make a motion for conceptual approval. And for the new board and bat to match the existing board and bat. And the architect to study column sizes, beam sizes, and consider lowering the roof, just as overall proportioning. Or maybe even pitch the roof up a little higher.
Are you also picking up staff conditions for every
I think there was just the one about the board and bat, right?
shutter style? It's okay.
Oh.
And window style.
So with staff conditions, then
Is this also, preliminary final review by staff or do you want to see it back?
yeah, I would say. Staff.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the table for conceptual approval. With preliminary and final review by staff. With conditions that address staff comments. The new board and batten is to match the existing board and batten. And then restudy the overall proportions of the pergola. Correct.
Correct.
And do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Chair votes with the majority. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, the vote. Yeah, I don't usually do this. All right, we'll take a vote now, Daryl.
In favor.
Okay, thank you.
In favor.
Okay, chair votes with the majority. Motion passes. All right, got that one.
Thank you.
Okay,
Hey, Bill, you read the motion.
yes. All right, conceptual approval with preliminary and final review by staff. The new board and batten is to match the existing board and batten. And restudy the proportions of the overall proportions of the pergola. And that also was the adoption of staff comments as well. Okay. Move on to the next one. That was,
At 4 Henrietta Street, it's in the Garden District, Council District 4, it's new construction, building historic district. They are requesting conceptual approval for a new single-family dwelling. This is an aerial of the adjacent property. This property was the green portion to the right of that. And I will hand it over to the applicant.
My name is Brian Wells. I'm with Coastal Creek Design. And my address is 501 Branson Court, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Glad to be with you tonight. I was gonna run through all the slides first, and then I'm gonna go back and talk about a few of them and some of the history behind it. So. The site plan showing the house lot. This is the floor plan. The roof plan section. Relations. Relation to the neighborhood. Aerial in the name. Yes, there's some context of the neighborhood. So this is the first time you guys are getting a chance to look at this. It's new construction. And Just gonna look at the site plan here for a minute. Hopefully you can see it a little bit better on your screens. So we had to go through about 4 rounds of the zoning before we got approval for that. So because of the setbacks and the lot size, the maximum that we have to deal with right to left is a 14'6" width. So the actual house itself is 14 feet. We went through the variance process to get a small variance on the front left, which is denoted in the blue patch. And that was to allow the house to look like a Charleston, with a Charleston style single house. We presented to the neighborhood association in February, and there was about 40 to 50 people that were at that meeting. The plans were received positively at that meeting. There was one exception to that, and I'll hit on that in a minute. The lot is still deep but narrow, and that's what's dictating the size and the massing of the house. All right, so this is a kind of a good map that shows the context of the neighborhood. So you'll see most of the houses in this area are around 2,000 heated square feet. And we're right around that number for ours. There is a 3,300 square foot house across the street. But most of the houses are around that 2,000 and about the same size in the area. We're at 1,950 for the heated square footage. And the architectural direction we have is taken from the context of the neighborhood, and it's very similar to the other houses. So you see we're slightly higher as you look at the relation of the neighbors, but that's primarily because of flood zone. So our finished floor is about 3.5 to 4 foot higher than the other homes, but again, that's dictated by the flood zone. So it's a simple house with a straight gable roof. Typical window and door trim details that are aligned with the neighborhood. Horizontal wood siding and shingle roof. And getting back to the property line. So on the right side, we have we're a 3 foot off the right side. So that's the reason why we don't have the 2 windows on the right side elevation, because of the fire rules. So when we presented to the neighborhood association, there was one neighbor that was opposed to how long the house was. So you can see in the back, 15 Elizabeth Street is the one that is in the rear of the property. So he was concerned that it was too close to the edge of his property. So from the back of our house to the property line is 8 foot. And there's a landing there. From the landing to his property line is about 4 feet. And there was a neighbor to the left at 6 Henrietta that asked us to put the HVAC behind the house. We did that on our site plan. Yeah, that's it for this initial presentation.
Any questions? What is your total width of your lot? Trying to find it on the plan, site plan.
Yeah, I think it's 24.
With the what, a 3 foot side setback?
Yeah, so if you, on the rear, you've got 7 foot, on the left, you've got 14 foot of the building, and you've got 3 foot on the right.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
Becky, did you have any questions?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay. Anyone from the public would like to speak?
Thank you. My name is Fred Willis, and I head up an ad hoc committee, for lack of a better word, of development for the Garden District. And I wanted to kind of put the context and correct at least one thing that was said, and that was there was not general agreement at our neighborhood meeting by any stretch as to the height, scale, and mass, which is the issue before you tonight. I'd like to go back if I can figure out how to go back with this. Just go back. Okay. And so I want to go back in context of what the controversy is that kind of got us to the point where we would eventually get to telling you that we would like to see this application denied due to height, scale, and mass. But first, just to show you on the drawing, there are two lots. Now, the original house at 2 Henrietta was purchased along with the other lot in December of 2024. And the idea was that instead of keeping it as it's been used, say, for the past 50 years, which is a single family house with parking and a shed behind it, the owner decided to go back to the original lot lines, which they were able to do, and have two lots. Now, these two lots, the total square footage of these two lots are 3,660 square feet. That's less than a DR1F lot in our neighborhood. And so each of these lots, or very particular one, is very subordinate to, or half the size of a DR2F. The other lot is probably 5% less than the DR2F. Now, what they're proposing between the existing house that they renovated and the new house is to have two structures totaled 3,500 square feet, 7 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, and 2 parking spaces. So based on our experience during the past year, and Travis was probably tired of getting phone calls for us, but the project started off on a very poor foot for us, and we're carrying some of that prejudice into this meeting tonight. The initial demolition on this house was done without a permit. All the interior walls of the historic structure were removed without a permit. A stop work order was issued, and subsequent to that, they had a new contractor take over the job. But even after that, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stop work orders, mostly because they were not using materials as drawn on the plans, or as the BAR likes to say, like kind materials. So we come before you a little bit with great suspicions of what will come next. Now, due to the unusual size of number 4, which is what we're talking about, 2,300 square feet, we think the house is too tall. And as we heard earlier, that most houses reflect this, I want to submit to you, and this is just comes off directly off their plan, the house directly across the street, which Mr. Wells referred to as number 3. And you notice that number 3, the height of number 3, which by the way, last year was renovated to meet FEMA, it's 30 feet and 3 inches tall. Now, the house next door at number 5 Henrietta, when the owner came before this board a few years ago, he was required to lower the first floor and second floor ceiling from 10 foot, 9 foot, which is drawn on number 4, to 9 foot, 8 foot, as well as what we see as this one is the roof pitch should be 8/12 in any event, because that's much more in keeping with the historic nature of the neighborhood. And the house itself is more of what has been referred to as sort of a rocket house. It's too narrow for the height. The other objection we have, which is the square footage of this house, is proposed to be a 4-bedroom, 4-bath house at just under 2,000 square feet. Put that in perspective, most of the houses in our neighborhood on this size lot would be 2-bedroom, 2-bath. The 4 houses that one of mine and 3 neighbors, the lots are 3,200 square feet, the houses are 2,200, 2,400 square feet, and they are 2 or 3-bedroom houses. The other item you'll hear about is on it doesn't really show up here, but the rear yard beyond the back porch and the stairs from this step to here is 3 foot 2 inch. And that's a backyard. That would also be something would be very rare to find in our neighborhood. Most backyards have 10 feet, 20 feet, something generous. So we feel that based on height, scale, and mass, we'd like to see it started over. For example, if you took out this bedroom here, which is 13 feet, if you took out that and the bedroom, that would be getting down to the size that we think. What I just passed out to you was number 3. According to county records, that's just under 1,500 square feet, directly across the street from this proposed structure. So we see a house that fits, being reduced in height to 30 feet, reduced in square footage. And I showed on the second sheet, if you flip that page over, just by taking the front of this house.
Fred, you're running out of time.
Okay. Thank you. So we'd ask you to deny this and ask them to start over.
Someone else?
Yes, please. My name is Ernst Kruderer. I'm the neighbor at 15, and I'm the one who spoke. I haven't seen that gentleman at the meeting, and it was not just myself. A lot of other people, but like you, we were running out of time. It was our general meeting. He wasn't even announced in the agenda. So I completely agree with Fred, and here just to visualize a little bit, I have a copy of you. I'm not an architect, but I hope you excuse myself. That shows all of our neighborhood have a little back or front yard for both. And the 2 red ones, they have nothing, no tree nuts. And the 2 palm tree, he shows, I don't know where. There you can see. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Either one.
My name's David Gross, my wife Victoria's here, and my son. We all own 6 Henrietta, which is the house to the west of this. I'm not sure if someone can pull us up for me. I'm not sure how to use this thing, but there's an elevation that shows our house next to that. Should I just click this thing?
The arrows on the left and right.
Here,
Yeah, if you just go back like 5, you'll get to it.
Well, anyway, this is our house. And the house being proposed is here. We're very close. I think most of the separation is about 7 feet for the zoning. There's a bit of an allowance which the zoning board granted, but it's along the lot line about 7 feet. So the height of this building as a rocket ship. I'm not sure if you have it in front of you. I can't seem to find it here, but anyway, the height will impose greatly upon our house itself. And particularly because of the light and the shadow effect. And it's sort of out of scale compared to our house. So we would support Fred and suggest that you ask the applicant to change the height of the building at least. And we support our neighbor in moving the building forward as well because of there it is. This is our house. And that's that house. And I don't know if there's a possibility of moving that gable, taking that gable back to that height, but that may be possible. Thank you.
Utility Historic Charleston Foundation. HCF is generally comfortable with architectural direction of this project, but as currently proposed, we are unable to support the project. With regard to height, the proposed structure appears taller than the nearby homes and somewhat out of proportion to surrounding context. We understand the constraints of the narrow lot, but believe a reduction in the overall mass of the building would help establish a more appropriate relationship between the structure and the lot and better reflect the established pattern of development in the area. For these reasons, HCF respectfully requests deferral to allow further study of the building's height, scale, and mass. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I would just have to try to say there were several other letters that of objections that came in.
The chairman noted in the beginning.
Okay, then I didn't hear that.
We received those already. They go out with our packets.
Yeah, great.
Okay, Brian, would you like to? Yeah, you'd like to make any comments?
Yeah, so Dave Derbyshire, I'm a partner in the ownership group of this property. So just quick background. So in terms of 2 Henrietta, I don't know how much that connects to this, but we did replace the contractor, to Fred's point, halfway through that project. And the feedback I've received from the neighborhood in terms of the new contractor has been significantly more positive. So we're happy about that. We're not the GC ourselves, but we have and that's who we would use for this new construction, most likely the new one. In terms of like the history of the project, we did have a meeting with the direct neighbors probably 4 or 5 months ago now at this point. And we just kind of wanted to level set on the direction of the project because we've gone a lot of different ways. It's a challenging lot. It's very, very narrow, as people will call it out. Trying to figure out what's the best way to sort of lay this house out on the lot. And we had received different suggestions from Fred, candidly, then I think he changed his mind on. So we were like, let's all sit down and figure out the path forward where we can kind of try and build somewhat of a consensus in terms of the location of the house. So that's what led us to the idea of pushing the house backwards. Our original plan was to have it more on the street, similar to the surrounding neighborhood. But the neighbors on Henrietta felt it was important that we have 2 off-street parking spots to alleviate potential cars on the street. So we accommodated that, kind of pushed the house backwards to create space for that. And after that small variance on the side of it, moved the house as far to the right towards our own property at 2 Henrietta as possible to accommodate some of the requests of 6 Henrietta in terms of creating space and allowing for light. I'll let Brian talk about the height of the house, and I'm sure there's probably ways we could collaborate on that or make adjustments. So we don't have necessarily any problem with that. I would just like to correct the record, though. I mean, we're getting really into the nuance of language, but I was at that meeting. I presented to the neighborhood association. There were no other negative comments made at the meeting besides the one neighbor, 15 Henrietta. There was actually other questions. Most of them were joking. I literally presented and answered the question. So I don't know if it matters, but I do think that's important to have on the record. And then final piece I would just call out is, if you look at the square footage, right, in the number of bedrooms,
I don't know how, and maybe there's a way we can work with the top floor to accomplish some of Fred's concerns and the other neighborhood's concerns, so I'm totally open to that. But to me, the number one challenge is the main floor of the home. You're creating like a reasonable living space, kitchen, dining room, table area. And if you start shortening the home significantly, it's just gonna be a really, from my perspective, given how narrow the house is, a really challenging house in terms of living space. And to me, I made this point in the meeting at the neighborhood association that it starts to lend itself much more towards like a college rental than it would a family's home. If you start really compressing that living space on the ground floor. So that's the, you know, a big reason why we haven't significantly shortened the house. On, at least on the ground floor. Maybe there's something creative we can do on the second floor. And I think maybe looking at ceiling height and the pitch of the roof is totally a reasonable thing to consider. So I don't know about the FEMA flood, and I'm sure Brian's a lot more educated on the height of the home relative to like the starting point and the baseline. So I don't want to get over my skis on that, but I did want to just provide some.
Yeah, I need you to kind of wrap up, but I actually got ahead of myself. I should have let Travis do his recommendations before he stood up. But
Apologies, sorry.
that's
Okay.
fine. So Travis, would you give us your staff comment?
Staff observation, while BAR does not typically approve parking in front of the structures, this property has nowhere else to provide parking. Height of structure is appropriate on street, especially with required FEMA elevation. The applicant has met with staff to work through zoning issues. Staff's recommendations, conceptual approval with preliminary and final review by staff of permit drawings.
Now, Brian, anything you'd like to add? Sorry about the getting out of order here.
It's okay.
I'm still learning.
I think as far as like the overall height, certainly we're open to changing the roof pitch and coming down with that. I do think that, you know, the flood zone itself is driving the height. You can pretty clearly see that when we go to the neighboring houses. I mean, we'd like to make it lower, but it's not possible with the flood zone. And I think Dan did a good job talking about that first floor living area. That's really the restriction when it comes to how, you know, how small it can be and really make it a little family home. And, you know, I just would point out that, you know, a lot of the things that bring it up as far as the length of the house and the setbacks and all that stuff was part of those 4 zoning meetings and debates. So I think we thought we got past that with the zoning approval for the length of the house. Appreciate the time.
That concludes our applicant presentation and public comment period. We're now going to board discussion.
Want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
You can go.
The board doesn't just dictate square footages. I guess that's worked out with the zoning department. So we can't just say you have to have a smaller house. But we're here for height, scale, and mass. And I think there's some issues with height, scale, and mass. From my perspective, the gable at the entrance, it's kind of awkward. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't work with the front or the back. The length of the house, I mean, we can't say it can't be that long, but we can question the massing of it. And it's long and the windows are kind of randomly placed. So I think that needs to get restudied. You could possibly have a house this long, but in my opinion, the massing needs to change. I don't know how you do that without adjusting the envelope in certain places, but that's kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an extremely challenging site. Actually, I do have a question for the applicant. Was there a variance for a lot of insufficient size or no? Like this lot was big enough? I thought 2,500.
There was a variance for the sufficient size.
Okay. But it needed to be 2,500. I just was curious if that had happened right at the beginning. Yes, I agree with you, Daryl, in terms of I struggle with the height, scale, and mass and the architectural direction. So from our purview, I also, this is a really lovely neighborhood. And the houses, with the exception of the one next door, the older houses are on the street. There's a pattern of scale and of proportion of the windows. Seeing one window in the center, I bet you can't say you probably don't see that anywhere, but that would be unusual. So really the vocabulary of the building, I agree with Daryl, that kind of pop up just at the entry feels really awkward. And the parking at the front is really, I don't have any solutions to that, but just as an urban planning and a neighborhood context for this neighborhood, that just seems just not appropriate.
I don't know how you don't have it though. When you look at it's a really hard project. I mean,
Yes, no doubt.
it's a tough lot. The last project you guys presented was an addition with 2 masses, and that was a really hard, you need to get easier projects.
I think it starts with when you start with a lot of insufficient size in a really delicate, beautiful neighborhood, that's going to be difficult. So getting to the regulations is going to be hard. There are ways to get around the parking in the front. So I don't know, I just have trouble with that.
From a design perspective, do you see a way to get around the parking in the front? I don't see a way around it. on
My
this.
only thought was, I think one of the odd things about the building is that side bump out, which is allowing entrance into the building. And I'm wondering if that side bump out went away and then maybe the building even gets a little narrower. I mean, it'll be, we've seen some pretty skinny houses on insufficient sized lots. We've seen them at, 12 feet wide, 11 feet wide, I believe, and by whittling a foot or so out of the width and height and taking that bump off of it, it might allow you to pull the house up towards the street where it really belongs and get a driveway down the side. Right now, the parking 2 cars out front of the house, it's taking up the entire front yard of the property. I mean, it just looks bad. I think also that side bump out is also driving up the height of the building. It's requiring that second gable mass as well. So if that element itself could go away, I think that helps some. And then I think you could also knock a foot out of each floor of the building. 8-foot ceiling on the second floor, 9 foot on the first. Is not an unreasonable thing to ask for. But I agree with both of you. To me, it definitely has a height scale mass problem, and what Becky picked up on some of the nuances of the neighborhoods, trying to pick up some of those in the detail.
And another option would be even a 1.5 stories or a knee wall, and then it comes up. That brings your rent down probably 2 or 3 feet.
Yeah.
So
I think it's like you both of you said, it's a very, very difficult site, a hard project. But we've seen other people build on these narrow little sites and make them work much more successfully than what we're seeing here tonight.
Right, it could be that this front has to be more narrow to allow 2 tandem.
Yeah.
And there's more of a beautiful front presence to the building itself. So
you want to make a motion, Vince?
yes, I make a motion for a deferral for these things. Based on board comments.
Discussion.
Yes, board discussion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Put this to a vote. Becky,
In favor.
Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
chair votes for the majority, and the motion passes for deferral for restudy.
Right, 1070 Morrison Street is in East Central Council District 4, new construction in the historic corridor. The applicant is requesting preliminary approval for new commercial office building with drive-through lane. This is an aerial of the property. I will turn it over to the applicant.
No.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Zach Garman with the Milliken Group. I represent the architect of the project. Kind of as a review from our conceptual review last time, this is a building at 1070 Morrison Drive. It is being viewed as an extension of the Morris development, so it borrows a lot of materiality and fenestration patterns from the building next door. It's going to be a single-story office building. For the purpose of a bank, there's a drive-through concept between the building and the railroad, the CSX right-of-way behind the building. The building is in an A11 flood zone. So the design flood elevation is at 13 feet. And we are within the limb wall line, so it has to be wet flood proof. So we have to elevate the floor slab fully above the design flood elevation. So the elevation of the slab is at 14 feet. Next is a little small, but the board had two comments last time. First comment was to explore adding a sidewall, 30-inch sidewall along Morrison Drive, which we've explored in the rendering, proposed rendering at the top. So there's a 30-inch sidewall that starts the building, goes all the way down Morrison to the curb cut at the bottom of the site. The other comment adopted was proposing the location of signage. So in the renderings, we provided two locations for signage for this tenant. There is one you'll see in a rendering where it's above the main entrance on a lower canopy. And then there's one that's up higher. And I want to address that one in particular. We had to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, the ISB for tree removal on site. If we have to go back with something like 44 caliber inches of trees, and we have very limited sawscape on site. So a lot of the trees are gonna be located right in front of the elevation where the signage is. So if we propose elevation or propose signage along this elevation, we prefer it to be up higher, so it has better visibility along Morrison. Just a couple of small site plan changes or developments. We do have vehicular pavers connecting the shared drive of 1080 Morrison next door, so we're proposing the same vehicular paver to come into our site for some cohesive site plan. So it's it's more cohesive. The other thing is we're proposing that sidewall kind of along Morrison Drive here, you'll see on the site plan, with a preliminary detail that matches the detail of the brick sidewall next door. Running the floor plan, we are showing the interior outfit plan. A couple of things to note. We switched the location of the accessible platform lift, so we don't have a ramp on site, to the north side of the stair to allow for a landing for an ATM and a nighttime drop box for the bank. So everything is elevated above the flood zone. And then we're proposing electrical meters on the railroad elevation side of the building, so it's tucked away from the right of way, and they will be painted to match the color of the material of the building. Regarding lighting, it's a very simple building from an exterior lighting perspective. We are just proposing downlights at the drive-through lane and at the entrance roof. No uplighting will be provided. The roof plan is the same as last time. And just a reminder, we're using the low roof parapet to screen the units on the low roof. So we're proposing no additional rooftop screening for those units. Elevation wise, not a lot have changed. One note we bring to the board, we are now showing kind of more of the finalized grading around the site with the black bar here at the bottom of the elevation. This is the original, this is the proposed elevation. So you see, based on the existing sidewalk along Morrison Drive, we do have a little bit more grade differential between finished floor and the sidewalk along Morrison, but the other three sides of the building kind of match more what we had originally shown. And then
just show kind of the proposed signage locations. This one up high facing Morrison. And then we propose signage kind of right above the canopy as you enter into the building. This one faces 1080 Morrison and is part of the shared access drive elevation. No massing, there have been no massing changes regarding the streetscape. We did lower the pitch ever so slightly on this roof based on a staff comment that the board didn't approve, but we did feel like it's good to lower the pitch of that roof a little bit so the roof isn't quite as dramatic. So just updated renderings, not a lot, honestly, has changed with the design since then. And then lastly, regarding the proposed materials, this is the adjacent property next door, 1080 Morrison. It's the same whitewash brick, which you see in front of you, General Shales Old Bailey. We have Ipe hardwood roof soffits that roof overhangs next door, so we're proposing the same thing in our building. Instead of doing a gray shingle product like we did next door, we're proposing more of a darker ACM panel, which is the large format panel you see there. It will have concealed fasteners, so there won't be any sort of rivets shown. And then the last material to bring to your attention for your approval is, I know material will be approved at the mock-up, but we're proposing at the high roof. It's not really visible from the public right of way until you get really far away from the building. The only place to really see the roof will be kind of the elevated overpass as you go down into the crosstown. We're proposing, instead of a metal standing seam roof, in order to cut some costs, we're proposing a TPO membrane with a hot air welded rib system in a dark charcoal gray to match the other roof colors of the properties. So it will mimic standing seam roof. You'll never be up close to notice it. And it helps to cut some costs in the project, as this is a very complicated little site with a complicated building. Other than that, I think I've finished presenting.
I've got a question for you.
Sure.
And maybe you can answer it on sheet south elevation 10. What's the distance from the bottom of the window to grade? Is that like 11? When I look at your rendering, it doesn't look like it's that much, but when I do the math, it seems like a lot. Like, what's the dimension from there to there? Is that like?
I believe it's close to 6 feet.
Okay, because when I said 14 minus 4.
Oh, yeah. So the average grade, because it does slope up to the drive in the back, is 4'4", but along Morrison Drive, it is farther. That dimension string, I believe, is 6 feet.
6 is good. If it was 10, I was going to be worried, but
No.
Right.
Anything to add? Becky, any
I don't-
questions? Okay, do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak?
Steve Utilities for Charleston Foundation. As we've stated at previous meetings, and just for the record, HCF is not opposed to the architectural direction of this project. However, we believe the current design is overly auto-centric. In general, we advocate for walkable, transit-oriented development, particularly on the Upper Peninsula where this project is located. Drive-through banks are not a building type we typically see or encourage on the peninsula, where the focus has increasingly shifted toward a more pedestrian-oriented and mixed.
Anyone else? Sure. Okay. We'll hear from Travis first, sort of that. Get ahead of myself. That's not my name.
Our staff observation is that the roof form has been restudied. A condition for approval is a separate signage packet is to be submitted prior to final review. This will require board review. And our recommendation is preliminary approval with staff condition and final review by staff permit documents.
Okay, now, Ty, would you like to?
Sure. I appreciate the foundation comment. Obviously, the use of this building is within the zoning regulations that for the use of a bank. And one quick question for the staff, just to confirm the need of a mock-up panel for final drawings.
Well, that concludes the public comment portion, applicant presentation, so we'll now go into full discussion.
I understand the pedestrian comment, but when you're in this flood zone and you're required to be 6 feet above grade, I don't know how they could do it much different. And I think on the last review, we didn't have much of an issue with it. We requested, I believe we requested a new wall they built along the sidewalk. That was one of the staff comments.
I'm in agreement with you, though, you know, if you look at like this, it's the south elevation, right, which is on north.
Right.
I mean, like, looks like grade isn't even grade, like grade is like a couple of feet below that, and grade first floor is almost 10 feet.
Can you
So it looks like the windows are like 12 feet.
click on your rendering? It looked,
Rendering
it
looks
matched
different.
what you're saying, but when we look at your math on the elevations,
Right,
it seems different.
yeah,
Maybe it's us, but well,
No, the elevations are correct.
anyway,
The elevations shown are correct. They show the correct. Based on the latest civil drawings, we have the grading information. The sidewalk is at roughly 8 feet from Morrison, and the finished floor elevation is at 14.
so that's
that's different. So if you go to sheet 10, I guess that's what's really confusing.
Sure.
because you have graded, you have 4.4 there or
Minus 4'4" from 14 MSL. Yeah. So that would be at
So grade,
9'8". And the grade of the sidewalk is 8 feet. So
If grade is at 8, then it
along Morrison, it grades up from there. So that's that average grade
Yeah.
along the site.
so it works if it's at 6. I mean, if it's at 8, it's just that we're struggling with the drawing.
I'm struggling with the drawing because the dark hatch is typically the ground.
The dark edge of the ground.
What?
Dark edge of the ground. The grade line shown at the average grade around the site.
So the windows are about 12 feet in the air.
No, they're not. Not if so the windows are how high above grade?
Oh, I see.
The windows,
Grade is
the
one.
sill of the storefront curtain wall is 6 feet above grade.
Oh, so it's a-
Elevation.
So it's a numbers issue. You're saying grade minus 4 feet 4 from the FE? Yes, I'm,
Yes. So grade in this case is the minus 4'4" dimension is from the first floor level, which is set at 0.
Ah.
So the first floor level is at 14 feet MSL. Grade is minus 4'4" from that, which is at 9'8". 1'8" below that is the grade along Morrison. And it grades up from there around the building.
Okay. Six feet works for me. Can't speak for you. We in board discussion yet?
Yeah, we're in board discussion.
If I remember.
I think we are.
I didn't have any issues, but signage I'm less familiar with than you are. Did you have any comments about?
Really, I think most things have been addressed on this. I have two things. One is, I think the sign that's high up is a little large. I usually like to say you take that whatever surface it's on and maybe not fill up any more than 2/3 of the height of that surface. That seems to kind of work with me most of the time. So I think the height of those letters on the taller sign up on the building could get shorter. And then the screen wall, I think the screen wall out by the street is working well, but as you get down to the tip end of the property, to that driveway, where the entry driveway that goes to the tellers, I would take that screen wall, let it pick up on the other side of that driveway, and maybe take a turn so that as you're coming along Morrison, kind of around that curve, it's going to screen all of that parking lot back there.
Perfect.
Yeah. So those are really my only two comments.
We make a motion?
Yeah, sure.
Make a motion for the architect to restudy the screen wall for the board's comments and to restudy the signage for the board comments. Approval. This is preliminary. With preliminary approval and final by staff
No,
It's
Uh,
separate. Separately, they'll come back.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor from Daryl for preliminary approval with final review by staff, addressing the board comment regarding the screen wall location and the wall signage height. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll put this to a vote. I'm sorry, I need a second.
Second.
You seconded, okay. Now we'll put this to the vote. Daryl,
You in favor?
Becky, chair votes with majority and the motion passes.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we'll mention one.
Sorry if we were got all confusing with that height there.
And we could clarify the grade line on that elevation for the final drawings.
Well, it's the cockpit. Running.
All right, 68 Bogart Street is in Cannonboro, Council District 6. It's a Category 4, Circuit 1885 in the Old City District. Applicant has requested final approval for fenestration changes. This is an aerial of the property. And I will hand it over to the applicant.
Good evening, Brett Morgan. And I'm going to make this pretty quick. I think it's pretty straightforward. So we're asking to replace 3 pairs of non-historic windows. Show you where these are. Something that we reviewed with the staff, and they asked us to do some investigative exploratory demolition, see if we could find any remnants of historic openings. And so it's basically these windows right here, and open up the walls, and basically it's all modern material. So there's no I think there was a piece of historic material that had been reused in some framing, but other than that, it was all modern material for the entire basically porch infill there. And they're modern windows that are failing. There's a lot of rot, and basically you can see here they're pretty significantly out of proportion with the rest of the structure and windows. And so we're here to get approval to replace those windows. We're proposing to go back with a wood true divided light window. It's not a wood true divided light window now. It's an aluminum jam, kind of pretty poor quality modern window right now. So we're open to any kind of window to replace it with, but it seemed like the most appropriate thing to go back with. So if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me, but I think that pretty well covers it.
So you're proposing to replace it with true divided light, I
Yes.
guess, for your drawings.
Yes, that's correct. Right.
Can you talk about the head heights or sill heights a little bit? Like, it looks like you're maybe matching or using existing heights, existing sizes of windows, but in a different position.
Yes, absolutely. So there is some limitation, especially at that second floor, with the ceiling height. It's a pretty low ceiling height, and so the windows are dropped a little bit there, if that's what you're referring to. And then yeah, is that what you're referring to?
I am actually, when I look at that elevation, I'm just wondering why. In the
Yeah.
existing house, they can accomplish that head height. It looks a little arbitrary.
Yeah, it's basically pushed up as high as we could, and quite frankly, I think if the construction has just started, so I basically directed them to, raise that head height as high as we can get it and still have, an appropriate amount of trim so that, but yes.
Anything else? Right, do we have anyone from the public that would like to speak? Travis?
My staff's observations that the rear addition previously approved by the board 8/14 of last year with the existing windows on that approval. Staff does not object to changing the size of the openings, but the windows should not match the historic structure as this is a piazza infill. Our condition for approval is staff recommends matching the windows of the new rear addition rather than the historic structure. And our recommendation is conceptual approval with staff conditions and preliminary final review by staff of the document.
Rhett, do you have any?
We don't have any objection to that at all, and that's. So do we want to, we're doing I think we originally proposed a clad window. I think they ended up going with like a Marvin, it's like a glass or something like that. So basically just match those windows, match the light pattern and everything. That's perfectly fine with them.
Okay. All right, that concludes applicant presentation, board public discussion, and we will go into board discussion now.
I was agreeing with staff. I didn't have anything else to add. Becky.
Just the placement looks really, really odd to me, the size and the placement. Like I'm trying to compare it, I can't see the elevations together where you're kind of looking at, but even the lines and that.
It's similar to the
Still
one.
on head doesn't match anything on either one. Maybe the first head matches the addition, can't tell.
And
And I can't tell what's on that other wall of works. I mean,
it's definitely lower than what's underneath the porch, but I think the architect also directed them to raise them as high as possible, right?
That's correct.
then the sill should match, like something should be.
Well, that they will match if you raise them.
Well, ideally, the head heights would match. Now, the second floor, I don't think it's gonna be possible.
Yeah.
Again, at the first floor, we would love the head heights to match, assuming there's, space to have appropriate trim in the interior.
Do you have any opinion?
No, I mean, I think, he's directed them to push them up as high as they can. Can't go any higher, you can't go any higher.
Right.
But I do agree that something should match, that make the sills, show line or something.
So to give them the liberty to raise the head height as high as possible, but the sill height should match the existing windows under the porch. Does that sound?
That what you're saying?
Wait, so let's just talk conceptually a minute. And so staff seems to feel that they should be they should be new. They should really like part of the new.
Yeah, and I could go either way on that. I mean, they're in the original, they're in a porch enclosure within the original body of the building.
Right.
So you could say match the original, but then at the same time, like Travis said, the porch enclosure is a later alteration. You consider it as something new, so new construction. So I could go either way.
So the new are 2/2.
Yeah.
And in a certain position. I guess it feels like just the line. I can't really tell. Like on the first floor, I can't tell if the head height is lining up or not with the addition. It just feels like there should be some continuity. Like something should, in the second floor, like sill height could match. I'm a little baffled why they can't go up a little higher. I guess it's framing and then header.
He says he's taking them up a little higher on the second floor.
infections if the position looks sort of random.
Well, the wall height of this is a piazza enclosure, you know, that wall height below, it could possibly be lower since it's been enclosed, because they may have kept that beam, the whole piazza beam, and that's what's preventing them to going up any further. I'd like to make a motion.
Well, I mean, I would make a motion that let's look at staffs. That I agree with staff that with staff comment one, the windows match the rear addition. I think there has to be some alignment of head or sill on both the first and second floor for continuity with the addition. And that would be preliminary and final by staff.
Got a motion on the table for preliminary approval with final review by staff, adopting staff comment number 1, and to align either the sill or the head heights for some continuity, correct?
I'll second it.
Daryl seconded. Okay, ready to vote. Daryl?
Yeah, in favor.
Becky? Chair votes with majority. Motion passes. You ready?
Fifty-seven Pitt Street, Charleston Village, Council District 8, Category 1, Circuit 1853 in the Golden Start District. The applicant is requesting conceptual approval for a columbarium. Here is aerial of the property, and I will hand it over to the applicant.
I'm Robert Gurley, and I'm a member of Bethel United Methodist Church. And the current sanctuary was constructed in 1853. The lot was purchased by Bethel in 1795 as a burial ground, and there was a preceding building constructed in 1797, which was later rolled across the street in the old Bethel United Methodist Church. I don't know how much you want me to go into detail of the buildings. Category 1 is Greek Doric temple. We've tried to take good care of it, and we're proud of it. So there's a lot of information there on the National Register in 1974. It hasn't been altered at all, except there's been a little addition in the rear. You can see from the sample. We'd like to erect a columbarium in an unused section of the graveyard. It'll be cylindrical and Bethel white granite. We like and the site is, you can see here, this calvinator and this pit, and this is where it will be located, adjacent to a later addition. Yeah. Right in this corner. As you see, we are painting. That won't look that way. We're painting it.
I saw the scaffolding going up yesterday.
Sorry?
I saw the scaffolding going up yesterday.
Yes, scaffolding's expensive, so we're going to move through this. As you can see here, it's very small. You see the elevations. What we like about this design is that it respects the sanctuary building. We like this centrifugal, this round shape, because it's more handicap accessible in a small site. It's going to be of granite. So you can see there is and 3 curved benches. So some of the details. That's essentially what we'd like to have, conceptual approval for tonight.
Any questions, Robert? Anyone from the public? No? Okay, Travis?
Staff observations is visible from South Field Street. The location does not distract from the historic church. And since this is a category 2 in the architectural inventory, staff can only approve repairs in kind. Our recommendation is conceptual approval with preliminary and final review by staff of permit documents.
Anything to add, Robert? Or do you have anything to add? Any?
No, we appreciate the support and, we ask for your approval.
That concludes the public presentation and, we will now go into more discussion.
I had no issues with it.
Yeah, I mean, I like that they use a circular shape sitting in that space. It seems very well placed.
I like the simplicity of it as well. So,
Make a motion.
sure.
I'll make a motion to approve, conceptual approval with preliminary and final by staff.
Motion on the floor for conceptual approval with preliminary and final review by staff. Do I have a second? All right, Daryl,
You in favor?
Becky,
In favor?
chair votes with majority and the motion passes. You. Travis.
126 Romney Street, North Central District, Council District 4. Building is not surveyed in the historic corridor district. The applicant is requesting conceptual approval for perimeter fencing. This is a aerial of the property. And I will hand it over to the applicant.
Thanks, Travis. My name is Tyler Smith, and we are applying for approval for a fence. We actually applied for final approval. But the fence is going to be surrounding 3 sides of this new parking lot here. The west side, which adjoins 2 buildings here, the north side, which adjoins another parking area, and the east side, which adjoins a commercial property and a vacant property here. We did appear in front of the BZA site design in November, where they had as a condition of their approval that the fence on the west side of the property being here be 8 feet high, an especially durable fence, and to have a rail that would withstand an impact from a car, so that a car wouldn't bump into it and break the fence. Challenge to design a fence that would do those things, and that's what we've done. So the fence, let me give you a little bit more context. But it's here. Looking at the property, 126 Romney is here. We have several fences along here, horizontal rail fence here, a metal fence here, horizontal rail, and that's just plywood on this building, which is sort of burned out. And then coming down here, looking at the west side where we have an adjacent residence, an adjacent new residence, an existing dog-eared fence, both an old dog-eared fence and a brand new dog-eared fence, which was apparently approved recently. And then we have some sort of mixed messiness over here. So we're going to clean all of this up with a fence on 3 sides. Going back, we have an 8-foot fence here. We're going to have 6x6 posts, roughly 8 feet apart, and horizontal rails using 1x6s with a 2x6 top rail to make it stable. On the north side and the east side, we would have a fairly similar fence with a guardrail along the north, guardrail along the west side here that I'd like to paint in sort of a cool color, maybe like a burnt orange color, something that I think would look nice. And then along the east side, where we adjoin, where there are parking blocks to stop a car from bumping the fence, we would not have the rail coming across on the north side. So we would have it along the west and the north, but not the east. And then there was a request by site design, which I kind of like, to not have just one long uninterrupted fence that with no breaks in it. And because we don't have room for any landscaping on the side, what we decided to do was every fourth or fifth panel have the slats set back 3 or 4 inches to have like an opportunity for some vine growth to kind of come up here for something pretty, some flowers. So every fourth or fifth panel along here, we would have an opportunity for like a green panel, which we think would be really nice. And that's really it. These are more photos here showing the adjacent fence and window. Anyway, so that's all.
So all the miscellaneous fences are going away.
Yeah, well, this fence would not go away. We don't own this fence. That was built and owned by a neighbor.
Okay.
But this fence would go in front of this fence.
Okay.
And it would be taller so as to make it a little bit more private for the sake of these, for the sake of these owners over here.
Any questions? Anyone from the public? No? Okay, Travis?
Staff observations. I'll read the whole thing, but VAR principle for new construction, renovation and repairs. The visual appearance of parking lots and garages should be mitigated to support pedestrian experience. Material and design are not such that can be approved by staff. Guardrail and rebar are not appropriate materials. Conditions for approval, staff suggests restudy with a more traditional material palette such as masonry per VAR principles. While VAR fencing policy recommends against pre-manufactured aluminum fencing for use in historic districts. An exception could be made since this is a commercial property. Our recommendation is deferral for restudy.
Okay, Brett, any rebuttal?
Sure. So this would not be a pre-made aluminum fence. Would not be a dog-eared fence, which apparently is allowed right there adjacent. It would actually cover out a substandard fence. It's about 195 feet deep. You know, we think that it would be a durable and handsome fence that would be made out of materials that we can purchase. You know, if it was a masonry fence, that builds it out even farther. We really don't have width to give in this parking lot for it to function for parking. So if it was a pier, it would probably be 12 inches deep rather than 6. That's a huge difference in this case. And so we would really like to avoid, in fact, I don't think that we can have a true masonry fence or a wall here. It's an entirely, we just don't think we have room for it. As far as, you know, whether or not the guardrail is appropriate, you know, we are facing a mandate that was a condition for approval by BZA site design. So we're trying to come up with something that will work, that will function correctly, and that I think will sort of look cool too. This is an area we're far from the historic area. I mean, we're on Romney Street. We're many blocks north of Line Street. So we think that it is a parking lot, and therefore, you know, the call for something perhaps a little bit more modern to service cars that zip along on our streets is appropriate. Thank you.
Moves, public comment and applicant presentation, go into board discussion.
You got anything, Becky?
It's hard because of the staff, the principals and there.
Travis, what about the guardrail? Can you articulate, or is it just a material that's generally not allowed?
From the comment, the guardrail and the rebar are not appropriate materials for parking lots in the historic district.
And where's the rebar? Am I missing that?
Sorry, I don't know if it was very clear on the panels that are set back every fourth or fifth panel. We're proposing to put like 3 pieces of horizontal rebar embedded in the post just for the vine support, just for something to hold up the vines. It's not going to be something obvious. Once the vines are on it, you'll never know it's there. And it could be wood if that was a real sticking point.
Kind of like Taco Boy.
Kind of like with that, there's a whole mesh of rebar there and you cannot see it. And I don't think it would be that dense. I want to keep it more under control.
And Tyler, the guardrail, that's a metal guardrail or?
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea. It could be a horizontal timber guardrail too. But I do think that the metal could be super cool and neat and, it would be obviously very durable. It's made for that. And it would prevent, like, you're going to see it as you're coming in. You're not going to want to hit that fence. It's going to stand out in a way where it will serve the purpose of this extra fence to protect the neighboring property.
I'm kind of on the fence with the guardrail. It's a fence. I like that he's recessed the panels for growth. That's a nice articulation. The guardrail, it may or may not work. Might be cool to see it and see if it works or not.
Yeah, I don't think the rebar, you're gonna see it like Tyler said.
Do you have any comments or issues?
No. Any thought on colors? You talked about the color of the guardrail maybe, but the color of the fence itself or?
I think I had it noted there, but I wanted to use a solid stain on the material. It's like a darker gray color. I can't remember the color now. Hang on, I might have it on here.
So it'll kind of recede.
I gotta go back. Yeah, it'll be sort of a recessive color. Perhaps I can't go back, but anyway, it would be a darker grayish solid stain on the fence material, on the wood material.
From my perspective, it's nicer than any fence around it.
Yeah.
And he has tried to break it up with some articulation.
Yeah.
And the reason it's not masonry is the cost would be
The cost for it. Yeah.
So I guess I personally don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I like that it's sort of cleaning up what that hodgepodge of other fences is gonna cover some of them. And it's gonna give some uniformity. So I'm fine.
Can we make a motion?
Sure.
With approval, a conceptual approval as submitted with preliminary and final by staff.
Okay, got a motion on the floor from Darrell for conceptual approval as submitted with preliminary and final review by staff. Do you have a second?
I second.
Second from Becky. Darrell,
You in favor?
Becky,
Yeah, in favor.
and chair votes with majority and motion passes.
Thank you. Can you get all that one?
Whenever you're ready, Travis.
40 Hazel Street is Anson Borough Council District 8. Category 3 building circa 1840 in the Old Historic District. The applicant is requesting exception approval for garden gate. Here is an aerial of the property. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening. My name is Marisha Fritsch, and this is my husband Eric Fritsch. He's the welder and blacksmith on the project. So a little bit different here of probably what you normally see for a garden gate. But we had one of those interesting scenarios as well, as we heard at Henrietta. We had to be creative. So let me show you what we're talking about here. So this property, whoops, that might work best. We first asked the BAR for permission to put the gate here, but if you can't really see it, but the sidewalk starts right at the end of the stairs. So we can't, of course, have a gate that swings out, can't swing in, or that wouldn't help with the gate. So we have come up with a plan for a cantilever system. So let me get a little better picture. So with the cantilever, we certainly want to keep it as incognito as possible, but still solve the problem for the client. So the gate would go on the second stair, and the system will hide right behind the existing wall with the ironwork above it. So you wouldn't be able to see it from the street. So
The slides?
yes, so it'll slide over. So it would start again on that second step to go behind. And the gate that we're proposing will mimic the garden or the driveway gates that they have, as well as the existing ironwork already up there with the finials, the 5-inch rings, all those type of pieces. Let's see here. So here's what it looks like today. And again, we would like to put this gate, this is an AI version, over here on the second one. So it would slide back over there. It will not go past. These are the driveway gates that they currently have. So the gate would stop right here. Again, the hardware is going to sit behind that, so not visible from the street. But a couple of things to note. During the research on this project, these railings were installed in a 1964 renovation of the home. So we really love gates and railings around here. So we like to see where did they come from, who made them. We could not find anything of note. So not a Philip Simmons or Christopher Werner type of design. So 1964 when the railings were installed. We would have to make a modification to the railing for that gate to be able to slide on this from the stairs over, because it does extend up all the way. So that is one of the modifications that we'd have to make in the project. But again, couldn't find any significant historical preservation there on that particular railing.
So the railings would have to be pushed back, what you're saying?
Doing slide through.
Also slide through.
Yeah.
Oh.
There won't be a whole lot of purpose to that one, but again, to keep the look to the preservation of 1964.
They kind of butt up to the support
Okay.
behind the gate.
Yeah. So
So
just,
the gate will sort of pass through the.
yes.
Okay.
So again, this is kind of the overview of what it looks like at the property now. So here again, here are the stairs and they go right to the sidewalk. So the owners didn't want to try for an encroachment permit or anything like that. We can see why, because it truly could be an issue. So again, here's the brick column and the gate will slide right behind it and then allow for closure over to the other side to latch.
What's the purpose of it? It just seems like it kind of odd.
Safety.
Security.
Yeah, they've,
The client wants security.
so, and right now, there is a little spot you could kind of wiggle around the fence that's there and the railing, so we'll seal that up as well.
Any other questions? Anyone from the public?
I was gonna say, we're using steel. Don't know if we need to-
Steel.
Yeah.
Feed Utility Historic Charleston Foundation, HCF is unable to support the garden gate as currently designed. Its placement on the second step creates an entry that is not cohesive with the existing fence. If a gate is desired, a more appropriate location would be at the bottom of the stairs, where it could read more naturally with the existing fence and knee wall.
Anyone else? Would you like to, did you have a rebuttal or?
I think that's just we wouldn't have anywhere to slide is our problem, because the cement wall that's there now is 12 inches wide. So this has been another tricky one, kind of like the Henrietta Street. We're looking for options to offer to them, and this was the best one we especially with the ability to hide the hardware that it's required to have behind that wall. So, because we can't go in front because we'll be on the public property, but that's why we had to put it on the second stair.
And the owner wasn't able to get an encroachment, have it swing out, or they just didn't want to?
They, well, in talking with the folks at the permitting office, they kind of advised it against it, that it wouldn't be permitted because it's right there at the sidewalk. So there would have had to be some legal cases that went into it, and they were concerned if they ever sold the house, that might be a stopping point because it might not be permitted later at the later date. So they asked us to look for another solution.
That includes public comment and applicant presentation, go into board discussion. It's an unusual situation.
Well, it's, I think we're always sympathetic to, security issues and things like that. I mean, it's just hard. Can't support this solution. Just I think putting a gate at the bottom of the stair like that, this isn't appropriate for building. So I don't know if coming off the back of the column and turning to the piazza with just a really simple wrought iron gate, to seal that off. I think just a different solution has to be found to meet the, whatever the goal is.
It's really odd. I mean, I think it's odd to have to. I don't think it's a security issue. Honestly, I'm not sure how much good
If people want to get in, they're gonna go.
putting a gate across the bottom of your steps is.
Apparently, his folks eating shrimp on the stairs and whatnot.
That's probably true.
Well, it's just hard. I mean, it's part of the urban fabric.
Yeah.
It's just hard.
Half of it,
Your stairs, your walls, if they're part of the sidewalk,
Yeah.
that is just.
Those of us
That's
who
hard.
live downtown, we're used to that.
I think they did discuss kind of redirecting the front, but then that would have to remove the pieces of the iron and cement that were already there to create another walkway. So we've been trying to brainstorm.
I just think it's very awkward on the steps.
Yeah, if the steps, if the steps set farther back to where there was actually room for this thing to rest on the ground, it would be fine, but I just don't think this is the right solution. I think it's a good, I think it's a good try. It's a beautiful
Right.
gate.
Very creative.
Do we have any consensus on motion?
Make a motion for denial of the proposed gate as submitted.
Okay, got a motion on the floor for denial. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, have a second. Put it to a vote. Daryl,
You in favor?
Becky,
Yeah, in favor.
chair votes with a majority and the motion passes. Yes. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, yeah.
Next item is 160 Church Street. That's District 8, not surveyed circa 1978 in the Fulton Historic District. Applicant is requesting preliminary approval for HVAC screen. Here is an aerial of the property. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening. So originally the permit had an awning to be constructed. That has been taken off the agenda. This is a photograph of the building behind it. This is the rooftop of Tommy's looking towards the hotel right there. We want to replicate this screening per the drawing and install on the rooftop. Pretty basic.
So this is just an example.
This is an example of screening that has been built and approved by the VAR and the buildings next door surrounding. We basically want to replicate that.
And, what's driving the height? It just seemed like what's being proposed is a lot higher than the units themselves.
The height, I believe, is 6.
5.5.
5.5.
Yeah, which is matching the height of those existing on the adjacent properties.
How high are the units? How tall
Those
are
are 5.5, that's a 6-foot high screen there.
but the units that you're screening, how tall are they?
Our screen would be 5.5.
Well, the HVAC units themselves are about 5 feet.
They sit behind it. I mean, so the 5.5 brings it high enough, but not too high. When you stand up next to those are giant.
Yeah, it's just.
But we just brought down 5.5.
Yeah, it's just the drawing I was looking at earlier. It just looked like the screen was a lot higher than it's shown behind. First floor on my stuff. There was an elevation in here.
Yeah.
An elevation drawing.
Look at like where the units were and what. Yeah, because. So,
Yeah, see this, that's what I'm talking
I
about.
know. And this looks like it's right on.
Can you flip to the side plan on that? I'm a little we're both kind of confused about exactly.
Basically, the locations of the units and the location of the screen on the building. Like if you were to look at like a flat.
Yeah, that's what I was
roof
talking
plan
about earlier. See how the screen looks like it's so much higher than
and the
units
shaded
behind.
units back behind it.
It would be set back, it's like 6 feet.
It's back up the roof line about 20 feet.
Past the facade.
Yeah, correct.
The 26 feet, this drawing is showing it's 26 feet back from the
Yeah, that
line guard.
that's what the architect or 26. She's
Yeah,
got
it
26.
extends all the way up to Church Street.
Yeah, keep flipping to, you get there's a site plan on there. Keep going. Keep going. There, okay. So what am I looking at there? I see
Right.
the fence, but what's the line to the side to?
So you just tell me if are you looking at
Yeah,
this line here?
yeah, okay. Is that the edge of the building that you were just pointing to?
So this is the edge of the building right here,
Okay,
this line here.
okay,
And so we're about, 99.5 feet to, well, not about, we're 99.5 feet to the end of the building up Church before you hit like old Bocce's restaurant and such.
and the line to the left side where the fence ends, is that the other end of the building?
Yes,
Okay, so
correct.
it spans the full length of the building then?
Correct.
Okay. And do the units stretch all the way across?
Yeah, so there's 3, and I don't know, there's like 1, 2, and 3 all back here. So instead of having 3 individual boxes that would look weird, because there'd just be 3, just go across and have a nice clean look all the way across, screening everything.
That's the Church Street end. We're saying on Church, yeah. Just one long continuous. That's
But from Church Street, it's hidden.
You don't see it from Church Street
Is it behind that?
because it's just along.
There's a parapet wall surrounding the top of the building.
How high is the parapet? You know?
Yeah, roughly. When you stand on a church here, you stand on a church here across the street and you look over, for whatever reason, part of the parapet and such just blocks the view. When you're coming up church this way, you can really see, there's no screen, so you get a straight shot and look at the units.
Mind going to
That's
the,
how it'd be screening
I
in that direction.
all right, if you wouldn't mind going to the city's aerial view. It seems to be the only, like at the very beginning. Which plan that's hard.
So. What?
Up one more, yeah, okay, so if you can explain where the units are and where the screening is.
Here. And that last photograph you saw of the example of screening, it's from these buildings here.
And where's the parapet that's gonna be hiding it?
The parapet is right here on Church Street. And there's a parapet above the entrance on Lingard.
There's something here. Okay.
That was a parapet. I'm sure. That was
This.
this.
Sure what's happening or.
Yeah, that's what I think that's just, I don't think this black line really means anything. I think it's, the roof continues on back here. I think that might, that was already. Well,
Seems very hard to review what's this thing.
It's just minimal information, so.
yeah, it's just.
So this is Lingard Hotel. That's existing. That's approved by the VAR. This is the old Bocce's building facing St. Philip. It's approved by the VAR. Same thing.
Yeah, I don't really have an issue with the design of the fence if he's matching what's adjacent. What I have more of an issue with is that I want to make sure the height is no higher than it needs to be, and I'm not sure that one continuous fence is the answer, because those units are pretty spread out. That's a big long fence. So would it be better broken?
I can't tell on sheet, on the Church Street elevation, I can't tell what's to the right of the HVAC, if the screening's just coming right. And the ending, like the next. If you go down 2 sheets from there,
So right here,
yeah, right
there's a
there,
parapet wall that extends down the roof line. So if you're standing on Church Street looking up, you're gonna see probably not even half of the actual fence. Because it's not, the fencing is not starting at the edge of the building, the parapet is set back, which we'll be running off of, if that makes sense. So you won't be walking up and seeing this giant structure from the Church Street side. Yeah, you really wouldn't see anything from Church Street side.
Are you saying the parapet is not at the front edge of the building, set back?
There's parapet all the way here, wrapped around. It lowers, dips down underneath this entrance, goes back up, but there's a parapet wall here that runs this way. So we're not gonna start at the edge of the building, it'll be set back. Enough where you won't. Yeah. The one obstructing view.
The site plans.
that's the Church Street elevation.
Yeah. Looks like
Those are just.
they need to take this, create a site plan showing the exact locations of the units, exact dimensions.
Can we make a motion?
I just don't think we've got enough information, I think.
Make a motion for deferral?
Yeah.
I have to give mine.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry, man.
We get ahead of ourselves. Our bad.
And public comment.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry, public comments, anyone? Sorry, things get kind of loose here. All right, Travis?
All right, so for the board's information, we have a timeline here from 2023 and 2024. Of some previous permits and board reviews. Our first comment is that the provided elevations do not show the entire facade. Staff believes the previous intent of the board was to finish off the edge of the roof exposed when the stucco band was removed. Staff support the screening of the mechanical equipment with a parapet wall that matches the existing along the Lingard Street facade that would match the Church Street parapet wall. A condition for approval, study screening of mechanical equipment with a parapet wall that matches the existing that goes along Lingard Street that matches Church. Review of parapet wall will be reviewed by board with complete drawings. And our recommendation is staff condition.
All right. Anything you'd like to add? Or staff's comments?
The existing parapet wall on Church is, our recommendation is basically continue that around on the Lingard Street route. And that would be your screening.
The parapet is only 3 feet. It wouldn't properly screen the HVAC unit.
I mean, from these drawings, it is taller than the HVAC.
Trying to think of how to. So the parapet's here?
No, the parapet on Church.
On Church Street.
Yes.
What about the parapet on Church Street?
Our recommendation is to extend that on the Lingard facade. So on the right, that is the Church Street parapet wall, correct?
Yes,
That's
the
correct.
elevation is not that high. It's only, it's only about yay high. So if you ran that around Church Street, if we actually did that, in theory, you'd come back and be like, that doesn't screen anything.
Okay, so.
And maybe that could be maybe I didn't.
This parapet here is as tall as that. I don't know why that's been pushed up, but it's no taller than that one.
Okay, regardless, staff's recommendation is parapet wall on the Lingard Street roof line.
I think we need a full Church Street elevation.
And Church Street elevation needs to be extended to the right to show the parapet.
Yeah.
We try to make a motion?
Yeah.
Or are we there yet?
Yes, we're now in full discussion.
Would make a motion for a roof plan drawn to scale, showing the locations of the mechanical units. And an elevation along Church Street. And then building photographs, yeah.
Deferral for more info.
Deferral for more information.
I've got a motion on the floor for deferral for more information, which would include a roof plan drawn to scale. With the units shown. And then I include a full building elevation of the Church Street facade showing the parapet. Correct.
Correct, and then I would say he needs to, if, according to the presenter, that elevation for Church Street isn't correct on the Lingard side, so we would adjust that accordingly.
Just a general comment, make sure all elevations are agreed dimension.
Yeah.
So that's really more of the challenge, correct, than what we were like. When we put these together, the recommendation was show us what the screening is gonna look like, a drawing, pictures. But now we're like, no, now we need another drawing and we're gonna think about running it.
We just don't have enough information to make a decision. I mean, I can't figure this thing out. I mean, there's no proper roof plan drawn to scale that has all the units shown. Whatever else is on the rooftop.
Right.
And your elevation shows your fence way above the height of the unit. So is that drawn incorrectly, or is the unit height drawn incorrectly? And then the parapet is shown differently, one elevation. So it's like things aren't adding up, and so we need more complete and accurate drawings. That's what we're saying. And we've got a motion on the floor right now, so we need to. Okay, so
should they consider staffs?
I think it's something to consider, yes, but I mean, there's this, the submittal's not complete enough for us to even be reviewing it. So I think we need to get past that point first, and that might help staff understand a little bit more too, because it seems like there's some discrepancies in what you're understanding about parapet height, what's stored on the drawings, which looks like a lot taller, and then what they're saying it is. So I think just a good set of drawings will clear a lot of this up, and maybe and then maybe Travis can work with them on a better solution. So we've got a motion on the floor for deferral. Provide a roof plan drawn to scale showing the location of the units, and provide a full building elevation of the Church Street facade showing the parapet. The understanding that all these drawings need to agree dimensionally. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second by Becky. Daryl?
You in favor?
Becky?
In favor.
Chair votes with majority, and the motion passes.
Thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
Right, 95 Main Street. Charleston Village, Council District 8 is not rated circa 1976 in the Old Historic District. The applicant is requesting appeal of staff denial for location of gas meter and external exhaust vents. This is an aerial of the property on New Main Street, and I will turn it over to the applicant.
Hello, I'm Josh Rita. I'm the homeowner of 95 Main Street. Been continuously making improvements to the home since I purchased in 2020. A relatively new homeowner, a graduate of the College of Charleston, just happy to be living downtown and trying to be a good steward of the home in the neighborhood. We're doing a kitchen remodel. It's a very awkward, dated, and not functional kitchen. So we're updating that, and do love to cook. So during that process, we would like to add a gas range stove. And that requires a small exhaust vent and a gas meter and gas line, which the home does not have gas currently. So I'll kind of show you where it will be placed on the home. It's very intentional on where we're asking to place this meter and very small gas line. The gas meter will be towards the front of the home, and that's exactly where the upstairs kitchen is. And I'll point this out in photographs. The line will run up 11 feet from the side of the house. The reason why we're not going inside is because it's a duplex, I do not own the lower unit. There are tenants in there, we can't access that. It was much more efficient to run this line right up the side, matching the color of the brick, entering in and going direct to the stove. The width elevation already contains multiple exterior surface mounted utility runs. This would be very minimal. And we'll follow the established utility pattern. Again, we'll paint with brown, to match the brick. If we're allowed to paint the meter, we'll paint the meter as well to closely match. It'll be done with People's Plumbing and Gas and Dominion Energy. The vent, this is the separate, this is probably a much easier scope. It might not even need to be in this package, but this vent will service the gas range hood for exhaust from the second floor kitchen. It's a very small vent cover that will be brown to match the brick. It's very minimal. I'll show you that as well. This home. This would be the placement of the gas meter. The line will run up right there. The stove is between these two windows right here. Obviously, we have no way to access this from the sidewalk. And this line is really small. This is where the existing electrical utilities are. HVAC is over here. This line is not to scale. Again, it's 3/4 inch. And then, funny enough, that vent hood cap would be right there above the range between those two windows where the stove is. So this is my unit. And the lower unit is down here, which I do not know. That came out grainy, but I have a better rendering to show you here. And it's kind of intentional, that looks almost identical to how, excuse me, how it currently looks. That's just another angle of it. There's a driveway on the side of my home. This would be adjacent to the driveway on the west side of the home. And this is showing the addition of that small vent cover for the range hood. It's exactly above the stove and exactly in line with an existing dryer vent on the front side of the home. Those are some specifications of the exhaust vent.
What's the, on the side where, on the building elevation where the meter is gonna go, what's that existing exhaust vent? What does that serve?
Oh, this existing exhaust vent? I believe this is a bathroom. So this home, I've been trying to investigate the history of it. It's built in 75. It was originally one home and it was split into a duplex at some point in time, and I can't really pinpoint it. But from my understanding, there's a bathroom here, and that's just the what do you call it, the exhaust circulation vent from the bathroom. And that one's fairly large. This would only be a small, I think that's actually a foot tall right there. Yeah. So that's not for anything on my leveled home.
And the range is your I guess you've got like an electric range now, and is it in that same location, or have you done a new kitchen layout?
The layout of the kitchen is staying the same. I think the only thing that moves is like a dishwasher.
Okay, so
And the layout will be the exact same.
so we're working with an existing layout.
Yes.
Okay. So I guess is the existing range just not vented now?
No, it's not vented now.
Okay.
And I tend to not cook things that smell a lot because it's not vented.
Questions? Anybody else got any questions? Okay. Anyone here to speak from the public? No? All right. Travis, give us your recommendation.
We do not have a recommendation, but our observation is that this was denied by staff due to location and visibility.
Okay, all right. And that applies to both the gas meter, gas line, and vent for the range vent. Okay. Anything you'd like to rebuttal, add or anything?
Yeah, it's kind of the only place we can put it, just because it is a duplex, like I mentioned. I guess from the rendering, you can kind of see that it's probably much more minimal than I described, even in this slideshow that I originally submitted. I made that rendering after the fact, and will look almost identical to what you're seeing on that piece of paper. The existing streetscape, you do see gas meters adjacent to driveways all over. If you actually flip that page over, you can see some existing conditions. But again, this is a very minimal addition. I hope that it's actually not too visible, because you're looking at the stretch of my driveway, which is 10 feet wide. Only when you pass that driveway, when you're perpendicular to it, you can even see it. If you're coming down the street, there's bushes and other homes that block. My home blocks it from one side. There's bushes, a fence that runs parallel to the home on the other side. You can only see it directly when you're passing my driveway, and my cars tend to park there too, which is blocking it most of the time as well.
And the other vent that's on the street side, you said that's a dryer vent?
Yeah, that's my dryer vent.
Your dryer. Okay. Okay, that concludes the presentation board comments, so we'll go into board discussion. Any thoughts on this?
I don't have that much trouble with the meter and the line, just because it seems like there's kind of a cluster of, I mean, I think if it could be moved as close to that cluster as possible, that would be great. I maybe have a little more trouble with the vent directly on the front of the building.
Yeah.
So if there was access to the roof for penetration or something, that would be.
Or if the vent were to go on the side elevation, if you could go through an
Right.
upper cabinet or something.
Right.
To the side.
You're on the second floor?
Yeah, so I guess I should kind of explain what the interior of the kitchen looks like. It doesn't exactly start, it's not that entire second floor front of the home that you were viewing. So the kitchen actually starts here, and it's a small, it's like kind of a shotgun kitchen or galley kitchen, and goes to here. There's a window on this side. I couldn't envision really any other place for that vent to go. I guess one thing I could add is that I'd be happy to replace this vent to match that one, or at least a color that could match the brick as well, if we're going to add that vent. And I also should note that this oak tree directly blocks that vent, so you really cannot even see it from the street, except from the side angle where I took the picture to display where the placement is. I hope so.
Struggling with the vent because I'm doing a project on Cord and Prelude Street, and there are 0 vents penetrating any facades on that street, and it's a lot of residential. So it requires, they're all required to go up through the roof.
There's a room above that.
Okay.
There's,
You can kind of read the
yeah,
window, so I wouldn't think you could easily go that direction. That would be the most logical and fitting place for it. I'd be happy to experiment with other colors or covers that even closely match the brick. I think it would really complicate it when I'm just trying to get some ventilation in the range there.
I understand he's just trying to vent out.
Yeah, the vent cover that he's chosen, it's a flat.
That's like, I don't think that's. Yeah.
This is 1.4 inches protruding. It's 1 inch off the socket.
What's on the 3rd floor, or what's above it?
That's a guest bedroom that we have above it.
So if it went through there, there'd be some sort of a chase, or could it go through the wall up through there?
The layout is just so, like I said, it was one home. The layout's just really not conducive to any. I mean, I'm sure a solution we could come up with one, but it would not be easy, and at that point I just wouldn't ventilate.
Because I did one where it went up through the floor joist and out to the side to get it off the facade, so there are options. I know I guess it's just harder.
Right, because the joints are probably going that way.
I think it does help that if we did, I should have included a street view, but the oak tree does directly block it. That helps at all. It's a large oak tree that I do take care of in front of the house. I stood out there when Dominion was trimming the power lines to make sure that they kept the tree intact.
Sympathetic, but I think it has to come out the side of it. And
I agree. Because we're having to do it on all our projects.
What's in the room next to the kitchen?
It's a dining room.
So how are you're getting your gas line through there somehow?
Yeah, it'll be going through the wall at floor level. And it's such a short run from.
So you're gonna have to open up the wall for that, correct?
Just below the windowsill here. That's literally, because this is already gonna be open for the kitchen demo. So all they're doing is taking the drywall out and that like 5-foot section to run the gas line behind there. So it's very minimally invasive the way that we're running that gas line. And
Just, I don't know if you've got enough of a cavity in there or not, but have you considered a downdraft where you could come down and then get through the wall where you're running your gas line there?
you'd rather, no, we haven't considered it. You'd rather have another vent on this
Yeah,
side
I
of the
think,
room?
because that's where all the junk is over there on the side, and it's just.
Yeah, I mean, I do see what you mean. It just,
I think we can't support it on the front of the building. So I think we're trying to help you figure out how to
Yeah,
get
sure.
it to one of the sides or up through the roof.
is there,
You know.
if I use a different material for the vent or a different style, and then again, replace this to match that one, very closely matching the brick, would that be something you could support at all?
I think we're compounding a problem.
Okay.
Like, I don't know how that dryer.
I think, I might be wrong. I mean, you might think different, but
To come out the side or the top.
we're getting board discussion. All right.
Yes, we are. Well, would somebody like to make a motion?
Can I make a motion to approve the meter location and the vent
And the conduit?
and the conduit and the vent to come out on a side or roof?
Okay.
Trying to give you some flexibility.
Sure. Yeah.
Do we have a motion on the floor from Daryl? It's is this a finals business last?
You know,
Appeal, is it an appeal? Perhaps?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So. Guess we would word this as to uphold the staff appeal regarding the range hood vent. Giving the option of coming out the side, one of the side walls or the roof. And then overturning the appeal for the location of the gas meter and gas line conduit up the wall. Correct?
Correct.
Is that right?
Well, overturn staff, for the uphold staff denial of vent, overturn staff denial of meter and conduit.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Travis, you want to repeat it?
So the motion is to uphold staff's denial of the vent with the option to go out the sides and or roof.
Right.
And then overturning staff's denial of the meter and conduit location.
With the understanding that you will be hanging that conduit out, right?
Yes.
Okay, so do I have a second?
second.
Have a second by Becky. Carol,
In favor.
Becky,
Yeah, yeah.
chair votes with the majority and the motion passes.
Thank you so much, Becky.
Okay, that's like,
12 Crimson was, our final item is 107 Congress Street, Radcliffe Borough Council District 6, Category 2. Circa 1851, hold on, 1 second. Let me get through that. In the old historic district, the applicant is requesting final approval to leave the cypress siding unpainted. All right, go ahead.
Thank you. This is an 1851 house at the corner of Cumming and Duncan Street. And this is how it looked about 4 months ago with asbestos siding on it. I had the asbestos siding removed and recycled. And I initially agreed to and planned to paint it white, which I had done 40 years ago, 46 years ago when I bought the house. But after taking the siding off, the asbestos siding, I discovered underneath that the original pine, which has vertical boards, vertical cuts in it, because it was pit sawn, was not initially painted. And it only had one coat of paint ever put on it at the time. I scraped away part of the paint to show underneath that it was unpainted long enough to turn gray. And more of this could be scraped off, but I scraped off this portion of it. And this is the initial unpainted portion of it. And here's one more piece that shows the same thing. This was the uppermost piece of molding of the corners, crown mold. Again, I scraped off a little bit to show that it was not painted long enough to turn gray. Therefore, I requested to leave the cypress unpainted. And the reason I had used cypress on this house was that I'd been required to own the kitchen building, which is right behind it at 2 Duncan Street. And this is what the house looks like now, that it has the cypress on it. That's 2 Duncan Street. That the Historic Charleston Foundation has a lien on that prevents it from ever being painted. And so now I'm proposing to leave this house, the main house on the corner, unpainted to match the kitchen building as well. The restoration has been complete. This is the back of the house. And I thought I had a picture of the other side of the house, but that's been completed also. Do you have any questions?
So you're proposing to leave it unpainted?
Yes. Oh, now I have had it painted at the suggestion of Keith Mitchell, the contractor, painted with linseed oil to seal it. And that would have been a primer coat for the white coat. But now that it's sealed, and I've replaced the gutter on the front of the building as well to keep water off the building as much as possible, I would rather let both buildings turn gray as they were after about 20, 40 years. I used cypress because it was less likely to deteriorate than the pine that was on both buildings at an additional expense. And once the kitchen building was restored, I liked the appearance so much that I would like to keep both buildings unpainted, except for linseed oil.
Here.
Thank you.
I said, where's somewhere when we need it?
Heat Utility Historic Charleston Foundation, HCF supports the applicant's request to leave the cypress siding unpainted. The applicant is a highly respected architectural historian who is carefully preserving the historic character of his property. Historically, many houses in Charleston with cypress siding were left unpainted, though very few examples remain today. As the applicant also notes, the house has only one documented layer of paint in its history, indicating that 107 Cumming Street remained unpainted for most of its lifespan. For these reasons, we recommend that the board approve this request.
Travis?
All right, staff doesn't have a recommendation, but we do have observations that this permit was denied because staff cannot prove unpainted wood, and that from documentation from the applicant, that it does appear that this was unpainted cypress previously.
Anything you'd like to add, rebuttal?
Neighbors have come and would like to support the application as well. They may speak now.
Would you like to speak?
Hi, I'm Connie Hughes, and I live at 119 Cumming Street, just down, well, a little bit to the north. And it looks lovely now, and it was awful before. So I really hope you'll let him leave it the way it is now, because it's beautiful. It really is. So, thank you.
And watching it.
I remember I moved to Charleston from Pennsylvania in 1973. And I've lived on Cumming Street across from Jean's house since 78. And I remember on Archdale Street, the Porsche house was unpainted cypress. It was beautiful. Just the trim was painted. Then someone comes along and doesn't like that, so they paint it after all those years. I think the John Lanning house, is it Lanning or Lining? I think that was unpainted cypress for a long time as well. Till a new owner decided to paint it. There's a long tradition here of unpainted cypress houses, and I'd love to see this stay the same.
All right, that will put us in the board discussion now. This is a little bit new territory for me, because I just don't know a lot about them. But I weigh heavily on Fort Charleston.
I'm in support of it, especially if Kate Utility with the Charleston Preservation Society supports it.
Motion.
You go ahead.
Yeah, I make a motion for approval. I guess this would be final approval for the project as submitted.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion is for final approval. Carol? Motion. Oh.
Yes.
Okay, yes, but
Getting
tired.
Yeah, in favor.
Okay, chair votes with majority and the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your support.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn? Okay.